Blog Talk Radio.
Hey there! Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Well, happy Sunday, everybody. It is July 5th, 2020, and I know some of us have very fuzzy brains going on today after all the fireworks and maybe some home parties. Who knows what was going on, but 4th of July was a little different this year, obviously. But welcome to Big Blend Radio. As always, we're your hosts, Nancy and Lisa, the crazy mother-daughter travel team on our Love Your Park tour, where we travel the country full-time, documenting parks and public lands, and all the different stories that we find in the communities. And we publish all of that in our Parks and Travel magazine. It's a digital publication. The summer issue is out. Check it out at nationalparktraveling.com. And we're also the publishers of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine that covers a little bit of everything. It's all about quality of life, from music and the arts to food and wine, to travel, to history, business, family, you name it. It's all in there. And the summer issue is coming out this week, so best thing to do is sign up for our newsletter. It comes out with the digital magazines pretty much every, 3 weeks, Nancy? 3 to 4? I don't know. It comes out as soon as we've published something, right? So just go to blendradioandtv.com for that. So today we are airing our first show from Lubbock, Texas. We've never been here. We got here yesterday afternoon after a stop in Happy, Texas. There is a happy Texas. We had to stop. If there's a happy town, we're going. And it's like this tiny town, and they are the town without a frown. That's the town slogan. And we didn't have much time, but we had to pull over. It's got the downtown Main Street, so a lot of derelict buildings, but it has those original brick, it's an original brick road. It does have the happy post office, like, seriously? It has a happy center.
They don't say why they're happy. Like, we came from Colorado. We know why they're happy up there. But they
have the happy camper.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean,
it doesn't say anything why it's happy.
I've been doing some research, and there's some interesting history, and there's some interesting movies have used their name. A lot, like one of the characters in the TV series 24 came from Happy, Texas. So it's had all these little, quirky pop culture kind of things happen with the town. So it's near Abilene. Where Abilene? Was that where we were? Amarillo. Sorry,
Amarillo,
I don't know where we are.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're in Lubbock, and this is the hometown of Buddy Holly. So we're going to go check out where he lived. There's a museum here and a big sculpture and a tree that Paul McCartney planted for him. So we're going to check that out while we're here. But most importantly, we're here to take care of the coolest cat in town, Cusco, the creeper cat. And this cat is, she's sleeping right now, but she is a talker. She could be radio full on, right? So we're here to take care of her, and Callie, the other cat, and all the birds. So we're out of time. So, all right, today's show. This is even more important. We have some amazing guests joining us. We have Steve Rogers joining us, and not just Steve. We also have Kurt. The two of them are the founders of the band Staring Into Nothing. Now, Nancy, don't you love that? So it's Kurt Barabas is joining us.
Because I do that all the time. I just stare into nothing all the time. So I'm like, dude.
I know. I like the name because it's when someone's just staring off, then you know something's what happened.
I think it's communicating with nature.
There's something going on. There's something. There's like you're that deep thought and when you can't tell, So their music is awesome. Their second album is out. It's called Love. Of course, they get into the human experience, and I love it because their lyrics are good, their melodies are good, their musicianship is just all the way around a fantastic album. So we're going to bring them on the show, and I encourage you to go to their website. Go check it out. Go to staringintonothing.com. I love that, and I love their logo too. We'll have to talk to them about that. So before we bring them on, we didn't know that Kurt was going to join us, but we're super glad. You got to have the two founders,
Hey, the more the merrier.
Stay tuned. We're going to play one of the songs from the album. It's called Summer, and they have all 4 seasons covered in song on this album. Come on, every relationship, romantic relationship has a season, and so
some short.
Right now we're in summer, so we got to play it. It's been the 4th of July, so it's that weekend. So I think we got to play it. So take a listen to Summer, and we'll bring them on right away after that.
It was summer the first time, darkness blew across our lives. No way that we could know when it would come or it would go. Time goes by, things start to change, familiar breeds contempt. Things once so endearing are the things we now resent. Like children in a grown-up game who do not know the rules, so practiced in the art of blame, careless and so cruel. No guide to instruct us, no map to chart the path. It's when you can't, you must believe that it will last. The longer between each embrace, the more we drift apart. A tone of voice or turn of phrase can terrorize a heart. But the passion never goes away, reminds us why we're here. It pulls us close, we re-emerge from the anger and the fear. We're the victims and the villains of your moods and my conceit. Roles disperse and then reform, play, pause, rewind, and then repeat. The longer between each embrace, the more we drift apart. A tone of voice or turn of phrase can terrorize a heart. Anticipation turns to fear, a summer day into a storm. We pay the price in time and tears when love takes other forms. When the sounds that we hear are too often command and control, love slipping through the cracks. Be careful, my dear, those looks that kill and faces we show begins the fade to black. The longer between each embrace, the more we drift apart. A tone of voice or turn of phrase can terrorize a heart. Terrorize your heart.
Now that does sound like the end of some of my relationships right there.
You know what? What I love about this, it's total surf music with a twist.
I know the
totally-
horns,
It's
that rhythm, that
everything.
percussion in there, and then
Yeah,
here's the bass.
the
that it
harmony.
just-
totally surf music with a twist. Which,
I
if
know,
you think
I love-
about it, that's
Yeah.
a relationship.
Well, everybody, we've got Steve Rogers with us and Kurt Barabas. Now, Steve does the keyboards and vocals. Kurt is the bass, also plays guitar and vocals, and they're both on the show. So let's start with you, Steve. Hey, how's it going?
Well, it's going really great. I can't thank you enough for having us on your show.
Oh, we're excited about this. Are you kidding me? This album is like, you guys, it's like intense, but I don't mean it like intense, like, you know, we're uptight. It's amazing. It's pretty genius, actually, and it's pretty epic when I listen to everything that you've put into it. And it gets me excited when musicians do that, yet it's still, when you're listening, you still can follow it and follow the flow and the melody, and then there's all these little surprises in there. So I think it's really exciting. That's just for me. That's my opinion, and, you know, I get in trouble for that sometimes, but I really enjoy what you've put together. I think it feels like a lot of work. So welcome, Kurt. Was it a lot of work?
Well, thank you.
Welcome to the show.
It's our life's work, you know.
Cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing where a song may come up within that year, but there's lots of years behind it in the making many times. And thank you for those comments. That's really awesome.
Oh, you bet, man. I mean, it's like some people get mad at opinions, but I think when you listen, everybody's got something, their opinion, the listener's opinion, right, of what the song is about and everything. But to me, it's like, if you dig it, it's like, yeah, this is really cool. And you just hear there's a lot of thought, but it's like cooking, isn't it? I always think music and cooking go hand in hand.
Well, sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that, you know, we've had this, similar to Great Recipe, we had a lot of people collaborate with us on this album, and we took it very seriously right from the start, and we worked with really a top-shelf producer, Ronan Chris Murphy, and he understood our vision right from the beginning, and I remember the first meeting we had with him, he said, let's make a great album if we're going to spend our time this way, and while I can't judge our album as the quality, I can tell you that we put everything into it that we had, including a bunch of really great musicians who contributed in just superb ways. And ultimately, I think we were able to get what we wanted out of it, which was an album that had a lot of great tunes and melodies, at the same time really did try and explore romantic relationships from more of a long-term, or maybe what I could describe as a mature perspective looking back.
You know, listening to the album and having, I mean, I'm going to say it's like the top line cast of musicians, because you're just listening to the musicianship's amazing. But when you, sometimes it's like, oh, don't, you know, too many cooks in the kitchen. This is not the case with that. And I was reading what some of their comments were, and putting it, it's like, oh, it was so much fun to be able to stretch out the songs, and some of those, the wording to me just was like, okay, you obviously allowed, you know, here you get these great musicians, but you allowed them to do what they're great at, but also allowed them to breathe and put some of their thoughts and perspectives into it.
Absolutely. And, you know, again, hats off to our producer on this, Ronan Chris Murphy. When we were putting together the record, I think this is correct. He said the musicians he'd like to bring to the table not only would be world class, but that they got it and they would care what we're doing. And I believe we got that. The result was there.
Oh, and let's talk about some of the musicians. Tell everybody who's on horns, because the horns, I mean, that just takes me back to certain sounds of, you know, and it just is so quality. I mean, and then at the same time, I don't know, it brought me, it takes you into all eras, actually. I think the horns really do that.
Yeah, that was a guy named Danny T. Levin, and when he came into the studio, he brought an assortment of horns, and just one guy did it all, and he was amazing. And the minute he lit them up on some of the songs, Kurt and I looked at each other and said, we're going to have some Chicago moments here.
Sweet. Cool.
And we love it.
Yeah.
Do you remember when the Doors brought out, you did Soft Parade, and all of a sudden the horns came in? I think it changed everything when they did that. And it's that when I was hearing the horns on there, I'm not saying it's the same or anything. It had that moment for me, like, okay, we're getting serious about this, about this musicality in here. You know, it's like a ta-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Here we are. Yeah, man, that is awesome. Then also, who was doing the percussion in there? Because the percussion, Summer is a great song. I'm actually really, really glad we started with that. But who did the percussion?
Yeah, most of the percussion was done by a guy named Victor Bisetti, who has played with Los Lobos in the past, and he was just super. He came in with all these different sound-making devices, and it was just wonderful to watch him do something that, you know, seems pretty simple until you try and do it yourself. In time with the song and everything. So Victor did wonderful work for us on the album.
Absolutely.
Wow.
That's
So
awesome.
Kurt, how did you meet Steve?
We met, about 20 years ago. I had a band called Under the Sun, and we had done a record, and it was received very well. And at the end of our tour, I was never happy with the vocals on the record, and I always wanted us to find a better vocalist. So we actually put an ad out on our website. Steve responded. Please correct me if I got this a little off. And the cool thing was Steve and I struck up a friendship, but that band, Under the Sun, just dissolved overnight. And Steve
It happened.
and I realized, it does. Once we started Success, I couldn't understand it, why it went away. But Steve and I knew that we had an instant chemistry with musicianship and songwriting. And Steve, you can take it from here.
Yeah, we just stayed in touch through a lot of years and continued to collaborate here and there. And then suddenly in about 2014, by different events in each of our lives, found us in a position where we could dedicate, basically 5 days a week in a studio environment to writing. And before that, we were busy in different aspects of our lives, and we were living in different parts of Southern California, and it was just hard to get together. But suddenly, once we started spending daily time at writing songs, really we developed a chemistry and a style and an ability to tell each other when something sucks.
Why is that always the word?
Without hurting the other person's feelings, and we have a motto that good is the enemy of great, and so we try and push everything to the best possible form, and we're not afraid to throw it away and start over from scratch.
Yeah. No, I understand that. We're a mother-daughter
too. Yeah, really. And the word "it sucks."
That's exactly it. We'll go, well, what's wrong with this? Why it just sucks. It's like, well, let's break it down. No, it just sucks. Just move on. And then sometimes it's like, why do you have to say that? Why do you have to be like that? It's like, because it sucks. That's it. Well, and then writing together, I mean, when you think about the theme, so your first album together was Power. I find that, because then in a way, Power gets into the Love album too, right? Just even that whole song, Power. And I've got to dig into that album a little deeper too, because I just feel like we're kind of we're living Power right now, aren't we? Living in that world of just saying who's got what power over who. And it feels like our country and our world are kind of arguing about everything. And it just seems to all be about power, and control. And so when you follow up with Love, did you kind of realize was that the point, like putting the two together? Because it just seems like they really go hand in hand.
Yeah, we had originally, as I was talking about earlier, once we started working in a 5 day a week environment on writing songs, suddenly we realized that songs kind of fell into different buckets, and the songs on Power are definitely social observations about the ways in which power is used to corrupt and manipulate us, and really in non-beneficial ways. And so those songs that, range from things like a song called Information Crime that's about the difficulty of gleaning anything that's actually true from the media, to a song called Towers, which basically juxtaposes, the gentleman Philippe Petit, who walked across the World Trade Center in New York in the early 70s against the terrorist attack of 2001, and a song called Big Brother about being under surveillance all the time. So that group of songs, they really had a very common theme to them. But we had also written these songs about relationships, and we had frankly written some songs about war. And so we had originally conceived that the first three things that we did would probably be power and its corrupting influence on us, love, followed by war.
Wow. Oh, wow. This is epic, you guys. I mean, it's like you're writing like a masterpiece novel series, and that's the first thing that, first thing that came to me listening to your music. I was like, you guys are master storytellers, and it's and I think when you're tackling things like war and power and love, I mean, love is like the universal language of everything, right? No matter what, it comes back down to that. It always comes back to it, whether it's gone, lost, budding, or in it, but to be able to tackle all that and for have the listener have an open ears and an open mind and soul to take it in, soak it in, and then chew on it, and that's important with music. Like a good movie, you watch a good movie, no matter what the topic is, no matter how hard it is, if it sits with you for that week after and you keep thinking about it, that's a good movie. And I think that's what your albums are like. You're going to sit with it and stew and think about it and then play it again and hear another thing. I mean, even for you guys who created the album, do you listen to it and hear something new even though you created it?
Well, this sounds kind of odd, but yes, on different days, listening to something you've written, it just strikes you differently. And I believe that's what the human experience is all about. And I'd like to say, again, hats off to you for that comment about a good movie, because I personally love the idea of music, especially our music, being visual. And so you can really think about it. And Steve is a master storyteller, I believe, with his lyrics, how he can really speak without being corny or direct. He can really set the picture.
I think one of the best examples of what you just asked about would be the song "Ashes" off of the new album, which we wrote. Yeah, and then to watch a video producer, video maker, interpret the song in a way that you didn't necessarily have in mind is a really interesting and rewarding experience, and I think demonstrates how songs have different flavors and different textures to different people. But we so love that video treatment of the song being about, redemption from substance abuse, that we're just thrilled.
And that was Vicente Cordoba who made that video.
That video is epic. Watching it, it really did. I mean, it's like it made you think after. You're sitting there thinking about it and thinking about redemption and acceptance. And acceptance on the person going through the substance abuse, having to accept. And, there's always that when you're like, oh, you're going to have to come to terms with yourself. And there's that anger beforehand. And the anger, you're just acting out of it because you're just going to have to deal with it. And then there's an acceptance there. And then there's the acceptance when people realize, okay, you're not the devil because you've gone through something, and the redemption, acceptance goes hand in hand. And I like that it's also part of relationships because that happens with people, they get married or fall in love and suddenly one partner is in substance abuse, or maybe they both are, and they have to somehow decide what to do with that. And, children being involved, maybe, other families. So I think it's a really deep thing. And I think the country, I always just kind of look at where we're at. Substance abuse is a big deal. And so if that shines a light on it, I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah, forgiveness is definitely a big theme for me. I think it's a healing concept, and I often say forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves, because there's once you can forgive someone, there's just so much baggage that can leave from your life as well as theirs. It takes a lot of negative energy to hold on to anger and resentment, and just doesn't help anybody.
No, and I think that's when we do get sick. We were talking about this yesterday. Nancy and I had this big old conversation, and we're just chilling out with Cusco the cat. Sorry, the cat here is very cool. I wish I want to wake her up so she can come talk. She will. But we were talking about that, about holding on to past issues, past dramas, and I don't think things ever leave you, but you don't have to give it the time of day anymore. You can learn lessons, whether you're a victim or not a victim. You learn lessons, and you just learn the lessons and move forward. But people, I think in relationships, they'll keep going back to things of the past. Nancy, we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah. It's like every time you do that, emotionally, your body goes through something, because you almost relive it. And sometimes as you're reliving it, you embellish on it, make it worse than it was, or maybe you'll calm it down a bit, but you are still reliving it. And then, so that's a real sign you're not over it. You haven't put it in the past like you think you should have, or that you thought you did. And it really is negative. It never helps. It's like the same old thing over and over. It's like border wars. It's just the same old thing over and over and over again. So it's kind of like you're stuck. You haven't moved on. You're just stuck.
Yeah, that's a concept Tony Robbins visits a lot. Why do you keep going back and watching that bad movie over and over?
Yeah.
Throw it away.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So now this is interesting, because here's an album that we end up, let's call all the therapists. You know what I mean? But in a way, it's like, but this is important. Having these themes and the topics of the human experience, even those two words put together, to me, that's interesting, because I think as humans we forget that it's all part of experience. And having this kind of discussion, I think is important. But when you're writing and going through this, are you guys like sitting and talking about all of that? Like, hey, Tony Robbins says this, this person over here, or like having those discussions about life, those like really deep discussions. But maybe that's why it works, because you guys can, and through friendship, be able to be open that way.
Well, we certainly do have discussions about, the songs, and I have to try and make sure that my lyrics make sense to Kurt and tell him that this is from the latest book that I read. But sometimes they're also just from life experiences. There's songs on the album that are really about experiences that Kurt had, and I just, he wanted a song to kind of cover that particular topic, and I would come up with lyrics, and then we would kind of work together on them to express really his point of view, even though he wasn't the primary lyric writer. So, yeah, we're talking about these things all the time, and that's part of the great chemistry that we have as a duo. Really, I don't think either of us has big egos to bruise, and so we're really just trying to explore topics that matter to us and develop songs that we like.
Now, Kurt, going because of the bass playing side of things, do you ever write using your bass? Because to me that's yeah, because doesn't it keep it straight? That's how you get the melody stronger in some ways. It seems like to me as a songwriter too.
Well, it's interesting for me. I played guitar for writing purposes and to augment our songs, but it's 50-50 with me. Sometimes it just depends on what happens that day. If I'm playing my bass and I'll think of something, or if it's a guitar. But like Steve mentioned before about our how we work together, we just bounce everything off of us, and we really, with ourselves and our music, there is no ego because we both know we have the same goal. We want to make the best thing we possibly can, and that is what I believe is the key to our chemistry right there.
I think I really like that because we had a band once, and there was such a split all the time, and it became really clear that some were interested in the final product and others were only interested in themselves and what they personally brought to the table or commanded, controlled, whatever. And it became like this, we're like, oh man, this is not worth it, because it was just so, it was so negative and so deflating at times.
Yes.
And then other times it was like really cool, but not that many times. Because I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Commitments, but we were right there.
Everybody fighting at the end. Of course.
Hey,
I think every musician has.
Well, I look at it this way. The Beatles broke up for that reason. And you know, if they didn't keep it together, you know, it's kind of
but it's human beings, right? So it goes right back to the human experience, power, relationships. You know, our band name was Human Spirit. Go figure. Because it was about that. How's that? That's a trip. That's a trip. But so now you guys are based out of Costa Mesa. That's where your studio is?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, cool. Because this is interesting. We have, travel writers and everything. And one of them, Linda Cassan, wrote us. She went to Costa Mesa and is writing about it and how it's becoming a little bit more of the arts. And we're doing an interview on Friday with the Visitor Bureau, Jenny from Costa Mesa. And I was looking at their photos. I'm like, well, this looks like it is becoming quite an art town in a way. Do you feel that, or is it just I just look at anything that's art and go, that's cool?
No, I think that there is more and more of an artistic element that's showing a presence in Orange County and Costa Mesa specifically. I know of several other studios in the area, and there are, a fair number of musicians down here. I think there's times when people are just wanting maybe a slightly different lifestyle than living up in Hollywood or Los Angeles, and so they migrate south down here. And, it was partly because of the convenience and the proximity of Costa Mesa that we were able to get some of the musicians for this album to come out to our studio, because, it's a long trip for some people, but more and more, I think Costa Mesa is pretty convenient, and it's worked well for us, and I think it worked well for them.
And some of the musicians, Mike Keneally from Zappa, and Steve Vai, and Joe Satriani, he was on there, and Trey Gunn from King Crimson. I mean, you've got Victor Bisetti, as you were saying earlier, Gregg Bissonette, if I'm not saying his name correctly, I'm very sorry, and Dave Nachmanoff. Just amazing the list of musicians you have. So it's super cool that you have them all together, and especially Ronan producing this. What I wanted to know is, are you plans for more videos, because we're waiting? And I wanted to know, did you get any footage of you guys recording the actual album with everybody that you had in there?
Yeah, the first part of your question is there are more videos coming. We have commissioned a total of 7 of them.
Sweet.
4 feature songs from the new Love album and 3 feature songs from the prior album, Power. We've also got some lyric videos out there on YouTube already. And as for your second part of your question, yeah, we did capture some footage of us recording the album and the musicians, and we just haven't gotten to the process of editing something together so that we can, put it out there. But I do think that as people become more familiar with the record, we want to do that, because I think it would be enjoyable for them to see some of the ways some of this music was created. For example, Trey Gunn uses a very unusual instrument called a Warr Guitar. And he makes sounds that sometimes sound like, a theremin, and sometimes sound like the strangest guitar you've ever heard, but it's just a wonderful and unique flavor that we loved being able to have on the album.
That's cool. I was wondering, I saw Warr Guitar, and I'm like, okay, wait, what's that? It's like everyone's like guitars, bass, blah, blah. I'm like, Warr Guitar, wait. So I check this out, So that's super cool because, and I think it's interesting. It's always nice to see the behind the scenes of an album of people performing together. I love all those bootlegs of, the recording sessions. I'm like addicted to it because you hear different versions of a song too, and what it could have sounded like on a different take, So it would be cool. It would be cool to see something like that on this. But what are the 4 songs? We've got Ashes, and we definitely have to play Ashes on the song on the show today. What are the other 3?
We already have a video in the can that I've seen and is just really awaiting for the right release date, and that's for the song The Ties That Bind.
Oh, cool.
And the other 2 I think are Find Our Way Back and Spring.
Oh, cool. I like Spring. I like them all. Let's play The Ties That Bind then, so everybody can take a listen. I love that. That's one of my highlighted songs on the list here of all the different tracks. And Find Our Way Back, and and Amazing Grace. Wow, that is quite the perfect closer to the album too. I liked your Amazing Grace. Yeah, that it just kind of like makes you just sit and listen and stop and think and this is great.
Yeah.
So are you playing The Ties That Bind?
I am indeed. Go right ahead. That's great.
Awesome.
All right, everybody take a listen. Again, the album is out now. It's called Love, and you can go get it off of Bandcamp. Hey, Bandcamp is about the only good streaming place now that doesn't take everything from the musicians. So I just encourage you when you buy albums to go there. So you can go to Stare Into Nothing on Bandcamp, or you can go right to staringintonothing.com. So, Staring Into Nothing on Bandcamp. They seem to be really nice. Would you guys agree with that? That they're pretty much one of the better places to purchase from these days? And
I would agree with that completely.
Okay.
And like you said, so many places extract a lump of flesh from the musicians that.
It's terrible. Shame on them.
Just Spotify. Here's your quarter of a penny.
Really.
For every million songs. Here, and don't spend it all at once. I know. The world has gone mad. It's so cool that we have the internet. Yeah, it's just getting. Yeah, I'm just. Yeah, can we send the album Power to them and send it to the muckety mucks? That's what needs to happen. That's exactly it. But anyway, in that vein, here's The Ties That Bind. Take a listen. to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa, and that was The Ties That Bind. It is off of the brand new album by Staring Into Nothing. The album is called Love, and you can go get the album. Go to staringintonothing.com or find them on Bandcamp and get the album. Okay, so we got Steve and we got Kurt here. Was that the Warr Guitar, or was that, something crazy on your keyboard, Steve? What was that? You know what I'm talking about, the woo-woo.
Yeah, that was the Moog synthesizer.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay. I just wanted to know that because you never know what's going on with keyboards. Anything can come out of there.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the magic box of
is.
buttons and grooves, and anything can come out of there. Steve, when did you start playing?
When did I start playing?
Were you a kid? Was it always keyboards?
I was a kid. I learned how to play piano from an old jazz improvisational musician when I was a teenager. And I didn't know it at the time, but he taught me a lot of harmony and theory, as well as sort of his improvisational jazz method of playing the piano, which is just totally different than learning how to play in a traditional classical style. And so I've played most of my life, but really it wasn't until we got into composition that I realized how many tools he gave me way back when that I didn't value at the time, but suddenly in composition it helped us have, key changes and big 7th and 11th chords and stuff that I didn't know what he was teaching me at the time, and now suddenly I'm like, well, watch this, Kurt. I can do a chord like this.
And it's just classic. That's awesome. Kurt, what about you? I mean, you said you started with bass, but was that as a kid? Did you what said? Oh, what was it that like? I want to play bass in specific.
Well, I'll tell you my story. Since I was very young, the Beatles. So when I was 10 years old, I finally convinced my parents to get me an acoustic guitar. And I played for about a year, but I just didn't think that at the time I was playing a classical guitar, and I would listen to the Beatles records and say, I don't sound like this. I must not have any talent. So because of the strings, basically. So flash forward a couple of years, I heard Chris Squire and from the band Yes, and listened to a song called "In You and I," and I said, "That's a bass. That's what I want to do." And so I was, I think, 14 or 15. And a little side note to that: flash forward to 1987, I got to know Chris Squire through a band I was in. He was kind of giving us stage advice, and when I first met him, I told him my story, and he looked at me and laughed and said, "Don't blame me." He was the nicest of souls, and I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you think about you guys doing prog rock, right? And prog, and I always find it interesting because Nancy and I didn't even, we've been doing radio shows forever, and we've been involved in music, but neither one of us ever looked at it as anything as prog rock. We just kind of listen, and I mean, we're the blend, so it's kind of obvious that we just kind of there. We do like to erase the line in the sand all the time. That is, I love that line in The Ties That Bind. By the way, I love that because it's true. And whenever you set up a boundary, you can push past it. So it's like, this is the line. Oh yeah, watch this. Here it comes. But it's interesting about prog rock and listening to this. It seems like you were kind of involved in and kind of, when you think about Yes, that you were in there. I mean, I was, as a kid growing up on Pink Floyd and, Yes, and, God, even, the Moody Blues and everything. I didn't realize I was listening to prog rock at all, but I was into it, So it's an interesting thing. And a lot of people compare you to Pink Floyd, and I see why. And certain songs, some of the vocals even just like, whoa, there's a lot of and also I think power's got to kind of go with that too. So it's interesting. But Steve, going back with the keys for you, I know you've got the jazz improv in there, and jazz is, it's like that's the best stuff to learn too. Were you thinking prog rock when you were a kid too, or?
I've never been 100% sure what prog rock is.
Oh, good. Because we don't want to be the only ones to go whatever. Yeah, because we're like, what is there's a magazine and there's all that stuff going on, and we're like,
what does
okay.
it mean?
We interviewed so many prog rock artists. I'm like, okay, this is great.
Okay.
I don't know what the hell you're doing. I dig it.
Yeah, but you mentioned a band like the Moody Blues. I mean, I know many people who would claim that the Moody Blues aren't prog rock, but I see as much production value and as much creativity and complexity in their music as bands that are considered the epitome of prog rock, like Genesis or Yes.
Genesis,
and
yeah.
I really like all kinds of music, and I mean, I've been spending the last 2 days enjoying Hamilton with it coming out here recently and being able to watch it on television. So
cool.
I just like all different genres. I grew up in the 70s with classic rock music, and so when people ask me what our stuff sounds like, I say, well, it probably sounds more like it was from 1979 than it does that it was from 2009. But we are the result of our cultural upbringing and our heritage, and that's like all those bands you mentioned are bands that I love and listened, and I've been to all the concerts and done all those things, and but at the same time I enjoy a great Merle Haggard song just as much as a great Pink Floyd song.
See, this is when we became the blend, and people kept saying, no, you have to specialize and just either just be a nature magazine or just be a music magazine or just be an art magazine. We're like, no, we want to do a little bit of everything because we like a lot of everything. So why can't we do what we want? Like, no, you'll never make it.
Right.
And it's the same like a keyboard, okay? You can be piano on a keyboard, or you can be an oboe, or you can be a trumpet. So are you going to buy a keyboard and just play one instrument on it, or are you going to be like the blend and do, like when I got my first keyboard, I bought an orchestral score to the Grand Canyon, and I tried to record each instrument. That failed miserably, but it taught me a lot about music and keyboards. I really wanted to make the donkey sound going down the Grand Canyon.
That's a big task you adopted.
I know, but it's really fun, and I might do it again one day just because I really can't stand that I couldn't do it, and I might be able to do it later in life, but not. Well, I don't know. I wanted to be the orchestra and mix it all and come like, this is one person who did the Grand Canyon.
Well, that's what I think prog rock is that it does take in all these different genres and adds that flavor in, but it's the building of a story, and it's a building of an actual experience. It's like it doesn't have to stay in the same thing. It just builds up. I mean, that's why the progression part, it's this building up of sound, and it's like blues does a little bit of that too, but there's just this different vibe on it, and I don't know what it technically is.
All.
And I'm listening to it and going, wow, I'm digging that. Oh, I didn't think it was going to go this way, I love that about it. But Ties That Bind, I wanted to talk about that song real quick since we played it too. I think it's really great because it's almost like the full circle of a relationship. It's talking about kids and the family part, and you can have the cake, and you can it's sometimes things like kids make it that you do stick to something. Sometimes when you don't have the responsibility on top, then you can walk away sooner than you should have, maybe. And sometimes you have to walk away. If you're in a bad one or whatever, you need to walk away. But I like that song because it is positive, but I think it does talk about responsibility, and relationships mean responsibility. So I like that.
Yeah, I think that that song came from a very specific perspective for me, which is that unfortunately, my parents divorced at a point in my life, and I've now had a long-term marriage, and I had 4 children, and I really appreciate the fact that my wife and I, though we certainly had some challenging times like everybody does, we survived it all. And we have all these things in common now that bind us together that, can be lost when relationships are severed. And I think that I think there's a line that I heard somewhere along the way that I use often, and many people have a hard time understanding me when I say it, but that is that people are not their behaviors. And it really just recognizes that if there is underlying love, and often there is underlying love, but yet sometimes the habits of communication we get into, or the, petty resentments or contempt that can creep into a relationship aren't really what matters. It's that reality underneath, which is that we love each other, and sometimes we have a hard time communicating, and sometimes I have a hard time listening, I'm told. but the net result of everything is very powerful and very meaningful.
Yeah, I think it's that responsibility is like, even what I just even go from a mother-daughter perspective. It's interesting because you're changing roles, and if you're working together, and you're traveling together, and you're doing all these things together, it's a very, because you still have to have your own person, and as an individual, you're growing. Each one of us is growing, and I think Khalil Gibran is one of my favorite philosophers and poets, and it was in The Prophet when he talked about, like, love is like you have, here's your tree, and you've got you're the tree, but you have these different branches of relationships, and he talks about like the oceans and everything, where a relationship, a marriage is your relationship. It's 3 parts. Your relationship with yourself. Then you have the marriage, and then you have a relationship with your loved one. So it's kind of like each person has to have their own relationship with themselves so that they can be in a marriage. So, each one has their separate, and then you have the united one. And I think that's what's hard sometimes, is we're all growing at different times and on different things.
I think we have to add a 4th one.
What's that?
Sorry. I was going to add a 4th one. You have to add the pressures of the outside world.
Sure. It's all part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about that. At different points in your life, you have different pressures from, peer groups or perceived peer groups. But I think what I was trying to capture is what, Nietzsche said, which is that which doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
That's true. That's true, too. Man, let's bring out all the books. We're doing good. Really. This is great. Well, I want to close with Ashes, and we can't wait for the next round of videos to come out. I know right now with COVID, it kind of changes things. Are you guys starting to record the next album? How are you doing on that part?
Oh boy, yeah, we've been busy. We kind of skipped right over some things, and we've recorded about 19 songs to a new album that's sort of built around themes of philosophy and what is good in life versus what is bad, based upon several books that I've read, particularly Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance and Brave New World. So that's what we're spending a lot of time on right now, and I know it sounds strange and too big, but it may be that we're going to do an album on philosophy and try and explore what's the difference between a good life and a mediocre one.
I think that's interesting. I like
that.
Yeah.
You know what? We have some friends who come on our show all the time. You probably know them. You guys are in Southern California. Jeff Kozak and Jimmy Yessian, the Tall Men Group. They come. I swear, every time they come on the show, if we get into these life story. And I think this is what songwriting is about. How does it get into some, you can watch a movie, you can read the philosophy book, but a song you can sing and you can keep playing over and over, right? So this is where it's like a never-ending thing with music. There's a big power to that. And every time they come on the show, we get into this whole like, okay, what is the meaning of life? And, and it's about relationships and this happens. So I think next time you guys have to come on together and we'll just have a Southern California philosophy of music. And just, they're the coolest guys. You guys, they're Ed Tree and Severin Brown, Marty Axelrod. All of them are just amazing guys. But it would just be fun to have like We'll, like each person can play a song and we can have a philosophical discussion on each one or something.
Great.
But I'm
awesome.
serious. I'm totally serious.
It's the psyche of music.
Well, the music really gets under your skin, and sometimes, like you said, it's like every day there's a different take on a song because of what's going on, and so it's almost like looking at a painting in different light, throughout the day. And so I think that, and I think music, though, really has that way of getting under your skin and you live with it forever. I mean, you think about music being played to Alzheimer's patients and they remember that more than sometimes their children, So I think it's incredibly powerful. And if that's your next album, that's fantastic. That's, and you're already cool. You are already doing that. You know that, right? You're going to do a new album with it.
Thank you.
No, you guys are awesome. So please come back with the next albums. Please keep in touch with us. It's been a true pleasure having you on the show and playing your music. And it's been a real pleasure. Everyone, again, the album, go to Staring Into Nothing, .bandcamp.com to get it there. You can get the actual CD, right? An actual physical. Can you do that? The actual physical thing? Or is it all digital?
That. Yes, you can.
You could read the
My
lyrics.
gosh.
I know.
Our car,
I'm not giving up on that.
Our car has a CD player, but I'm waiting for someone to make a record player for cars. I want vinyl. Yeah. I know it sounds nuts. Nice. And by the way, this is so important. Just at the closing of the show, Cusco the cat decided to come out, the creeper cat, and say hello to you both.
Why are you guys talking when I'm not in the room?
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare you?
This is our life, going around and hanging out with animals everywhere.
It's so awesome.
But we're going to play Ashes. It is a great life. It really, really is. It really is.
Yeah.
It's awesome traveling and going everywhere and seeing the world and meeting all kinds of cool people and going to parks. And it's a very healthy life, except for we do like our champagne on Sundays. That's our naughtiness. But thanks again, guys, for joining us. We want to thank the National Parks Arts Foundation for sponsoring today's show. Ooh, I think you guys should do this. Seriously.
Ooh, yeah.
The National Parks Arts Foundation is awesome.
Yeah.
They create artist-in-residence programs for musicians, artists, painters, poets. It really doesn't matter what form of art you create. They have a park for you where you spend an entire month in a park creating. Such as Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, where they have a recording studio in the house that you would be staying in that overlooks the ocean. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Exactly.
Go there.
And they have one just for musicians and singer-songwriters, and it's all part of the festival that happens out there, too. Chaco Canyon out in northern New Mexico, places like Dry Tortugas. By the way, for Dry Tortugas, you have to be a duo that goes out there because you're on your own island, Loggerhead Key. Yeah, your own island. It's remote, so you have to have two people be there for a month. Do you guys think you could be on an island together for a month? Like totally remote?
Yes. I think we could figure out how to pass the time.
Yeah.
See? I think, talk about, you would have to dig into philosophy. I know. Everybody else is taking food and everything over, and you'd be like, here, I'm bringing all my books, because it is, you're off the grid. So you're powered by solar, and, you're off the grid. No internet, none of that stuff. So it's pretty cool.
It's funny that you had mentioned national parks. I had seen a little bit of that on your website, and in this new batch of songs that we put together, it's definitely in the form of a narrative and the pivotal moment is a character in Yosemite National Park,
cool.
where he sort of figures it all out.
Awesome.
See, but that happens in nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have that quiet, you disconnect, allow yourself to have that. That's where your pivotal moments can come in, and because nature tests you, she always
you
does.
can finally actually see what you're looking at. There's a difference. That's why I like, staring, because staring into nothing, I love that because
I know
that's when you begin to actually see what you're actually looking at.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds weird, I know, but
no, it sounds perfect.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Or I like looking at people that are staring into nothing, where they're just completely out to lunch, and you're going, okay, what happened? Somebody
what's
did something.
in there? What's in there?
Or are they completely just like out? Are they really just out? Are they just completely no monkey mind chatter, just in a zone, like in meditation? By the way, before you go, who created the logo?
Focus, yeah. Well, we're watching this little cat here as she stalks things. It's really amazing. And her focus is like intense to the point that I'm like, dude, I gotta move. I don't know what she's gonna do. She is so focused, like she goes after squirrels, and they're almost bigger than her.
Outside, Keneally.
Yeah. And her focus is so crazy that you feel it. You can be 20 feet away, and you're like, she's gonna go get something. I know it. You turn. And you see her, and she's like, and as she slowly moves, you're like, wow, man, that's crazy. It's like she's a big tiger in the jungle, but she's just a little kitten.
No.
Cute.
Okay, wait.
Awesome.
I know. I have to ask about the name and the logo. The logo reminds me of the Illuminati thing.
Oh.
And it's on money. It's kind of like the thing on money. Isn't it?
Well, that's a symbolism that has to do with a lot of different things. Yeah, absolutely. But we thought it made sense relative to the name of the band, and particularly the first album being about the nature of the abuse of power. So it was developed more in that context, I think, than in this album's context. But we like it. We agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. I was like,
logos are hard to come by, and I like the idea of it being circular with the eye in the middle of it. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, the eye is the pathway to the soul.
Yeah,
it is.
There you go.
So
it's true.
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes we only use one eye as human beings. I mean, even though we're using two, but we're not focused. See, so I like the one eye on there. And it's almost like, okay, we're watching you with one eye, or, I'm so busy, I'm trying to multitask. There's so many different connotations that can come from that, which is cool, which makes people think and talk, and, it's good. I think I like that. I think it needs to be on a napkin or something, where it needs to, where
a napkin.
Thank you.
No, that's
not
weird. No, because every time you put like not a napkin, but like a coaster, a drink coaster, when people look, whenever they go to put their drink down, the eye is looking at you. The eye is always looking at you. That kind of thing. Yeah,
or
that's
painted on the bottom of the glass.
Yeah. Where this eyeball comes out at you. That's cool. That's very cool.
We're
all right, guys, we'll
about
behave now.
That everywhere.
Thank you. It was a privilege.
Weird, but
thank you very much.
It's really been amazing having you on the show. And we're going to close with Ashes. Again, the video is up on YouTube, so go check it out, too. Really, really powerful. So here it is. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And also, the National Parks Arts Foundation, I got to give out their website. It's nationalparksartsfoundation.org. And keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Our shows air Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. So here it is, Ashes. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.